It's like you can use hooks. You can use hooks for composing other hooks, and then use the async states and other state libraries components, and to build your application UX better. And the DX it provide also, it just get better and better. And React in general, I think is gonna be the like future for like everything. As you can we can even render videos nowadays with React, with Remotion and other cool stuff they are doing, and also 3D rendering, lots of cool stuff. And that's it. You can, Pedro, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been using functional components recently. I don't remember the last time I used a class component. Um, Nothing wrong with it particularly. I just think the functional components are a bit quicker to use to write. Yeah, I use hooks as well. I think that's a great API since its launch. We use it a lot. Um, Radix UI, the way that we do it there is internally. It uses hooks to share data and context and all these things. But the API that we expose to the end consumers are components.
Yep.
So unlike how you guys do it with Renderlesskit or React, which is you guys offer like a hook based API. We offer a component based API. So that's going to be interesting later for people who to see how you can kind of achieve similar things using different techniques.
Right.
Yeah, so I just found out I forgot to press the start broadcast button, so I didn't realize there's a button in the broadcast. But we sort of missed the introduction, but it doesn't matter so much. So maybe we just say hi to everyone. So I'm your web designer and the conference director.
Hi everyone.
And there we have Anurag Hazra. So maybe you can say a couple of words about yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Anurag Hazra. I work at currently Timeless Ventures. It's a Chennai-based company. I am from India, and I am also a student currently, like doing commerce stuff. Not sure why. So yeah, I will be demoing today Renderlesskit. It's our in-house component library. It's a hook-based component library. That means you can compose hooks to create your accessible components, and and build on top of it. So we are also gonna see our design system, which we are currently building. So it's like we are building on top of abstractions on top of abstractions. So it will be fun. Pedro.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, my name is Pedro. I do UI and work on around community stuff at Modules. Modules is a live design. It's a real code design editor. And apart from Modules, we also have other products like Radix UI, which is what I'll be demoing today. We have Stitches, which is our CSS-in-JS library, which actually I'll use today as well to demo Radix. And that's what we've been up to.
Yeah, and Sascha?
Yeah, I'm a maintainer of Twin. Twin is the successor of Ocean Wind and Beamwind, Tailwind CSS-in-JS library. So we have no components to use as is, but provide utilities to add styling via class name attributes to those two great libraries. The other two are presented.
Yeah, really cool. So I guess just to save some time, we move to the first live coding session with Pedro. So maybe you can prepare your screen, and then we start coding.
Cool. Let's do it.
Oh. Yeah.
Can I start?
Yeah. Feel free. Go ahead.
All right. Cool. So in this demo, I will show you guys Radix UI. Before we get into the code, let me just dark mode. Let me just show you a little bit of the website. It's going to help explain. So as it says here, Radix UI is our open source UI library that we built at Modules. And it's basically a low-level library of accessible and customizable components built with a good developer experience. So we kind of do everything as per the Y area design patterns. By default, all of the components that we've built are completely unstyled, meaning that if you just take them and render them in your app, it's not really going to look pretty. That's a good thing. They're opened, and by that it means that you can take the parts that each component have, and you can customize each one. You can decide if there's a part that you want to render or not. They're uncontrolled, which is good. Very good developer experience thing here. It means that, say, if you want to use a dialog, something that opens or closes, you don't need to set up your own state. You just put the dialog in, and it knows how to control its own state. So by default, everything's uncontrolled, with the option of being controlled if you need to. And this is cool. This kind of follows the same patterns that React has with inputs, for example. By default, inputs are uncontrolled, but you can control them. And again, it's built with good developer experience. Everything is built with TypeScript. We built the API that we've built these with are hopefully something that's going to be intuitive and in line with APIs that you're probably familiar with, things like onChange and onOpen, things like that. They're polymorphic, meaning that every component that renders a DOM element accepts an ASPROP. So you can kind of change the underlying element that's rendered with, if you need to. Generally, it's not something you need to do very often, but it's there if you need. And check this out later. You can, if you can join the Discord, Twitter, and check out the GitHub. We've got quite a few components already. I think we've got like 27, which makes us, I think, the biggest library of these low-level accessible components. But today, we're going to be looking at a drop-down menu. And I picked the drop-down menu specifically because it's typically a pretty complex component for people to build from scratch if you want to build it right. And by right, I mean you want to offer the right accessibility concerns for your users, the right behaviors such as when you open the drop down, does it open below the button? And if there's not enough space below the button, should it then open above? Yes, it should. Behaviors such as pressing up and down arrows on your keyboard is going to change the highlighted item. Type ahead support, so as you type on your keyboard, it automatically goes to the right item. We support a bunch of other type of items I'll show you here as well. So in the documentation, it goes through how it works. It has a basic example of how you can use it. This is more or less what we'll be building today. And then, everything's pretty fully documented. So I recommend that if you guys are building an application and you need anything that, any component that you want to kind of offer better accessibility and stuff, check out Radix UI. It's a good base for your design system as well. Cool. All right. So without further ado, let's put this here. And here we can do, I've got here.
Just a side note, can you make the font size a tiny bit bigger so people can see?
Definitely. Let's do it.
Great,
make it
thanks.
a bit smaller. Is that good?
That's good.
Yeah. I've just got a Next.js project here that I did with NPX create Next app. So that's basically all I've done here. Nothing special. Let me hide this. And we can add, there you go, Radix UI, React drop-down menu. And if you're following the docs, you have the instructions here as well. All right. So we start by adding that. And cool. And yarn dev to start the server. Let's put it over here. And we should get our server running here, port 3000. Hello world. There we go. All right. So first thing we do, let's import everything that we have, because this primitive has many parts, as drop-down menu. Call it primitive. Here. Cool. And We'll start very simple. We're just going to render the sort of structure of this. See, as I start typing root here, it starts auto-completing that for me. That's great. So we start simple. We're going to just create the overall wrapper, and then we're going to create a trigger. That's the button, basically. The trigger is the button component that you want to trigger the open state. And then we have something called content. That's the wrapper that's gonna basically contain all of your items. On that note, then you've got items. So let's just start with item 1, item 2, item 3. Okay. So we've just put in a very basic setup of a drop-down menu primitive here. As you can see on the left, I'm also going to zoom this in to, let's do 200. Maybe this a little bit. And I can open this, and you can see that it's already working, right? From a functionality point of view, from an accessibility point of view, this is all working. However, it's completely unstyled, and that's what I meant earlier when I said that these primitives, they're shipped without any styling. So that's cool. I can click and it opens. I can press escape and it closes, as well as it puts the focus back on the button. So that's cool. That's an important feature for screen readers, so the screen readers know where they are in the application. I can press space to open again, and I can press up and down with my keyboard. And as you can see, it's now cycling through the items. If I press the letter T, it goes to 2. If I press T again, it goes to 3. And if I keep pressing T, it's going to be cycling through all the items that begin with T, right? That's cool. You can press escape and it closes. That's cool. That's so far, that's kind of already a nice demo of features, right? It's already like packed with features that if anyone was to build themselves, it would take a few weeks to do. All right, but we want to make this look a little bit nicer. So how can we do this? We can do this in any styling solution that you want. You can do it with just CSS. And if you're just doing CSS, say that you want to style the button, you'd add a class name here, right? And you'd say, I don't know, let's call it trigger. Then you'd open your CSS file. Do I have one here? Globals, yeah. Let's do button. And let's just do color red, something simple just to see that we're getting some styling. Let's actually call it trigger because that's what we call this. And you can see the button is now red. I'm going to put this down a little bit. Okay, that's cool. We can do the same thing for every part that is available to you that renders an element. You can give it a class. And based on this class, content, you can then start adding styles. So for the content, what we're looking at here is basically this wrapper that holds these items. So just to make this a little bit more visible, let's add some box shadow to 0, 0, 15, and some black with transparency. Should be enough. There we go. You can see that. Adding 5 pixels. You can see that. That's cool. So that's how you'd go ahead and you add your own styles with just CSS. It works with CSS modules, with Tailwind, with Sass, Less, but also works with CSS-in-JS, which is what we're going to be using for this demo. So let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of these class names. We don't need this here either. And I'm just going to install, for this demo, I'm going to install Stitches. Stitches is a CSS-in-JS library also built by modules. I'm going to install that. And dev. And all right, let's go ahead and add a bit of styling. We can get an idea how we can make this look a bit better, how we can style states, and yeah, and it will be good to see how you can style primitives using a more like styled API pattern. So let's import styled from Stitches. And the first thing we do is I'm just going to first start renaming some of these things, because I'm kind of pretending here that I'm creating a design system and I want to expose this component that is already built for us I want to re-export that, but with styles, right? So first, we just want to export something called drop-down menu. We don't really want this to be called drop-down menu primitive. So we'll do this drop-down menu primitive here, .root, right? That's just drop-down menu. At the moment, nothing special here. And then the first bit that we want to style is the button. So we go drop-down menu button for the styled function on the trigger. Just to check that it's working again, we just add color red. And that becomes a button. All right, that's working so far, so good. Nice. All right, so now let's do, all right, just because I'm a bit lazy, I'm just gonna do this. And now let's do the content. We do one by one. Content. And then we'll do item. All right, so content can go. And item can go. So far, everything works the same. We've not really added any styling. We've just wrapped those primitives under under our styled function, and we've given it a slightly nicer name. And that's cool. The reason we call this primitive here in the first place is because I knew that we would have to kind of re-export with a nicer name. But if you're adding styling just via class names, you wouldn't even have to call this primitive. You could just import this as drop-down menu. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and let's add a little bit of styling. But the first thing I want to do is I just want to add a little bit of space around here because everything is a bit too tight. So because we're using stitches, I'm just going to take advantage of the stitches API. And I'm just going to create a box primitive here, which is styled of a div. We don't need to really give any styling here by default. And I'm going to rename this box to a div just so I can get access to this CSS prop and I can add a little bit of breathing room for us. Okay, that's better. Add a little bit more. That's better. That's better. All right, cool. So first thing, let's add a little bit of styling to the button. Here, I'll just do something very basic. We do appearance none. We do border none. And let's add a background color of blue violet. Let's add some border radius. Let's do this. And change the color to white and a little bit of padding. All right. Okay, that's good. That's good enough. It's big so you can see. And cool. Next up, we want to do the content. We want to make sure two things here. We want to make sure the content has a little bit of box shadows, is visible exactly where its surrounding is, and maybe add a little bit of a width. So let's do that here. We'll start with box shadow, large blur. See, there you go. Nice. Let's then do some border radius of 5. Let's do padding of 5. Let's do width of maybe 200. Big in it. Let's do 30. Okay, that's better. You see how this moved a little bit? I'll tell you why it moved. It moved because by default, the content is center aligned to the trigger. That's just the default. But if it can't center align, if it doesn't have enough space to the left, then it automatically aligns to the left, or also known as aligns to the start. So by default, it's center aligned. If you don't like that, you can also change that here, and you can say align here, and then you go start, and then it aligns to the start. To get to know which props each part accepts is something that you can see in the documentation. So as you scroll down here, we've got documentation for the content part, and here's the side. Sorry, this is the align, the one we're talking about. By default, it's center. And if you click here, it explains what this prop is. And if you click here, it tells you the available options. So now we're just aligning that to the beginning. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of side offset while I'm at it. 5, just to push that down a little bit. Okay, that's good. It's getting better. It's getting better. Let's just quickly do font size 13. Always looks good. Nice. And now we move to the item. Item font size 13 as well. Let's do font size 13 for the item, and let's do border radius of 3, a little bit smaller. And let's do a bit of padding of 5, 10. Okay, that's cool. All right, so far I've done all the basic styling that I wanted to do. We can still open and close, it's still fully functional. But the first thing I want to do now is I want to change the background color when I'm hovering or when I'm highlighting this, but it's not really just hovering, because if you think about it, we can also use keyboard to go up and down. That's not really hover, right? So if I go here and I use CSS hover, it might work when you hover, but it's not going to work when you're using your keyboard. The right term, the right state for this is focus. It's always focused. And when you're hovering, it's also focused. So the property you'd use here is a normal CSS focus selector. And we start by just changing the background color. Let's do blue violet again. Let's stick with this purple theme. Blue violet. All right. There we go. That's nice. Let's remove the outline. We don't need the default outline anymore because we are adding styles that are visible enough. So we can remove the outline. Let's see, better. And we change the color to white. Okay. All right. So here we go. We can also remove the outline from the button, and just to make it look a little bit nicer, and add a little bit of hover states for the button. Background color, let's do dark violet, just a small shift. There you go. Okay, so in a few minutes, this is how you can take a primitive, you can render it, and you can wrap in your own styling solution while still getting all the complex accessibility stuff. That's kind of that's what I have for the short demo. There are a lot more parts that you can use here. At the moment, we've just used button, content, and item. But if you look at our documentation, we've got a little example section where we show how we can, for example, style disable things. So here is how you add a disabled state to one of the items. You can add things like separators, which is a little line between, if you want to create a little group, you can separate that way. You can add labels, which are basically a type of item, but they're not interactive. You can add checkbox. So these are items that can be checked. You see this one, there's a tick here. If I click there, now the tick is gone. And this is the low level. We under the hood, all this uses the low level menu, which is, if you look at UI of your Mac OS, it's the same that you get here. So it's a super powerful component. You can do radio items as well, so you can only select one out of a group. You can do complex items, so you can actually have your own render, show a little avatar inside, and all the accessibility stuff is explained here as well. And yeah, I think that wraps up nicely how easy it is to take a Radix UI primitive, make it look good with your own styling solution. And yeah, no excuses not to build something accessible nowadays.
Cool. Thanks for the demonstration. So I think now we move to a small chat portion to discuss the demo. So does anyone have any comments about Radix or Stitches?
Yeah. So like Radix, like is the API is very simple. I can see And it also provides like out of the box accessibility, keyboard accessibility, which is very actually important for a component library. You don't want users who are using keyboard to like not have the accessibility there. And also the Stitches API is like amazing.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's good about the
That's all.
keyboard. It's true.
Yeah, it looks really good and easy to use. So I think that's one of the most difficult things that always been neglected is good accessibility for components and having a framework that makes it so easy to integrate. Because to be honest, the accessibility is always the same. What's different is the styles. So if we have good primitives for the basic stuff, then everybody can create its own styles, and with Stitches is a great option to do this. And you didn't show the cool variant stuff, so I think that's one of the biggest selling points of Stitches.
Yeah, that's right. This one was more focused for Radix, but yeah, it's true.
Everybody check that out. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so do we move to the next demonstration by Anurag, or do you have anything more to discuss?
Anyone have any comments in YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, it's no
Questions?
comments yet. So it's this classic thing. I mean, you ask for questions and you don't get any questions. But I think we will get more during the session, and then we will discuss. Yeah, interesting. But so we do the next demonstration, or?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. So now
Let me
live coding.
share my screen.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I have to make that one longer, but yeah, for the next time.
So yeah,
So maybe,
here's
okay, cool.
So I will be demoing our like date picker components. So it's like I will just go through all the components we have, like how we use the components right now. So we have calendar. So we are importing calendar cell. Like these components are very low level components for building a calendar. So we have cell, we have calendar grid, we have calendar header, button, titles, and cell button, and also calendar returns. So what we are doing is building the calendar in pieces. So because we don't provide like we are providing just the hooks and the state, we are managing all the state. So we can provide these buttons, and users can control all the users have full control over the styling and how they are like rendering the calendar. So as you can see, we have a calendar grid. So what this component will do is it will give us calendars here. Let me show you. This will give us this grid. This grid will have like base all the basic keyboard accessibility and stuff, and the styles and messed up, sorry. So yeah, you can page up, page down, all the keyboard accessibility for free. You get this, and we are here mapping the T body, the week calendar cells are these components. These small components are calendar cells. Yeah, this is all in the calendar. As you can see, the API is like very verbose. So it's good because you can abstract on top of it to create whatever you want, and even React it. We are like internally using React it. So React also like encourages to abstract the low level components to build our own high level components. So we have this calendar components ready, and then we will jump to date picker components. So date picker also have some primitive components: date picker segment, date picker content. We have the similar how the Radix UI trigger. Also have date picker trigger. We have use you can see here we have used date picker state here. So we are using the state date picker state here, and we are spreading the state in all the components. Here we are using the calendar components here, and we are getting the calendar state from here. Calendar state. So it will render this calendar components. This internally this all uses React, and React also provides some good defaults for like components. Their composite components is very good, and we are using for the styling we are using Tailwind. So like this is fine, like but I want to show you guys like how composable it is to create and modify the components. So here we have a single component, a single calendar, and I want to like create this, convert this into range calendar. So let's do that. First of all, we'll get range state, use date range picker state. We'll get the date range picker state from our library, and we'll change the uh, TypeScript definitions. We got this. Like now, the whole thing is using whole date picker is using range calendar state. Now, as you can see, this TypeScript is complaining that this segment is not available. So in the date range picker, we have a start segment and end segment. So we can do start segment state. Each segment has its own state, and we can do this. And we also wanna create the state segment like this. So this will work. Ignore the ESLint. It's like doing weird stuff.
It's dot dot dot. It's missing one dot from them.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry, my bad. So let this compile. So yeah, so we this segment components is basically this uh, like date segment. You can jump through arrow keys, left arrow keys, and use up arrow keys to change the values, like I'm doing here. And it's all keyboard accessible, so you can press Alt and down arrow key to open the like date picker component, and again escape to close the date picker component. So let's see. As you can see, we have converted this to a range component, range date picker, right? So we can do that, but it's missing something. We need two date segments here. So how we'll do it? So what we will do is duplicate this and make this end segment. Here we go. We have two date pickers. Let's give this. Don't use NBSP, by the way. So I'll just give it some space. Yeah, we have this dash. Yeah, we have now two date segments. As you can see, now we can change this to a range date picker. Now you can see this how composable this was to like create a range date picker. Users can like modify however they want. For example, let's say I will go to calendar. Let's say they want to change like they don't want the header buttons here. They want to simplify this. They can just delete this whole thing, and they will style it however what they want. So yeah, here we remove the date picker header, and it all works as fine. So here's how our components basically work on low level. So we have some other components. Let me just we have get picker trigger. So it's this calendar icon. This after clicking this, this will open, and we have this segment as I said, and we have the wrapper component. It wraps over the whole date picker. And yeah, you can do all sorts of like React provides all this some of these props too, because this is like the React's composite. Let me like show you guys how React handles the accessibility. So yeah, here's like React's composite component. It's like extremely helpful to create like accessible components. we are using two-dimensional navigation, grid navigation for the grid, for this grid arrow navigation. So they are using grid. Yeah, as you can see, React also provides some of the basic components like popover, which we are composing on top of date picker. This is a popover, and we React also provides some tooltips, visually hidden components, and other basic components there. Our code principles are also very similar to React. We are accessible, composable, stylable, and extensible. So people can compose on top of our components to create design systems and other stuff. As Radix too, Radix also provides all these features by default. So we can also see our other components. These are the components we have. We have accordion. These are these things are not styled. As you can see, these are unstyled. Some of them are styled like this. We have arrow navigation and on the accordion and stuff. We have calendar components. You can also use calendar components standalone, without a date picker component. We can we have this range picker, date picker components. You can play around with them with using you can place, wait a second, yeah. So we have segment components. This is the segment component which we are using in our date pickers, date picker here. This components is basically you can put a date on it, and you can cycle through all the values. Yeah, we have select component. So this is basically select component. React also working on combo box, I think, which is very useful. You can compose on top of React's combo box to create select component. We have sliders. Yeah, we have sliders, and we also have time picker. For example, if you wanna add this time picker to React to the calendar, you can do that. So that's it for the renderless components. We also have we are also building our renderless kit. Where is that? Yeah, so this is our design system we are building. These are all built on top of that, and we are styling this with Tailwind. Tailwind is nice for building component libraries, but there are some issues with specificity you will face. So not the best idea, I guess, but it works. We have to solve this problem with weird stuff. We will talk about Tailwind when Sascha talk about his demos. So yeah. We have calendar components here, all the components. We have video.
That's really cool, and this time we actually have questions. So let's move to this chat section, and I will pick up questions to discuss. So the first one is for Anurag: is how do you choose what to implement next in your system?
In our library, yeah. So basically, we have a we actually don't have any plans like that. We choose the most interesting components, and we build the easy one first, and then create RFCs first to discuss the API and API with our team. Actually, one of my team member, Navin Murthy, is on chat. He is giving some of the I think suggestions to talk about. Yeah, so we create RFCs and build the components as we go.
Yeah, sounds good. It's sort of I did some kind of library myself, and you start with the basics. You make a box and flex and stack, and then you do more complicated things on top of that. And then I have another question that's more for Pedro. So can you explain this performance aspect for Stitches? So how does Stitches compare to other solutions for performance?
Yeah, sure. So the main difference between Stitches and other popular CSS-in-JS libraries is that Stitches doesn't really have prop interpolation, meaning that like if you use something like style components or emotion, you actually rely completely on the render time to interpolate a prop and then change the CSS value that you want to add based on that prop. And that's a pattern that a lot of people use when they're building with this styled API. So one of the reasons that we're faster is that. Also, we are quite a modern CSS-in-JS library, meaning we're built mainly for modern browsers app. We weigh only about 5 kilobytes with the styled API and about 3 kilobytes if you're just using a platform agnostic way. So it's probably about 70% of the size of style components, I think. And it's built by Jonathan, who is a very experienced CSS developer, knows a lot about how to build these things for the web, knows a lot about CSS-OM, and uses a lot of internal techniques for caching, for reusing certain cached styles that it doesn't require any re-rendering. It uses CSS variables for all the tokens that you create. They get automatically converted. So if you change your theme from light to dark, there's no re-rendering happening in React, or there's nothing really much changing, actually. It's just CSS variables being reassigned. So there's a bunch of modern techniques that make Stitches super fast and performant. We are working on benchmarking right now. We're probably going to release that in the next week or two when we release the public beta version of Stitches. And the last thing I was going to say is that it really doesn't have any runtime cost aside from when you're using a little bit of the CSS prop for layout stuff.
So is there some kind of migration path? So let's say use emotion or style components. Is it difficult to migrate to Stitches, or do you have some kind of plan in mind?
It's easy, man. Easy. It's very similar API. It's basically like if you think about the common API of styled, you pass in an element and you pass in CSS. That's it, right? There's a few differences where if you're relying on prop interpolation to change styles, you switch that to variants, which is what Stitches uses internally. But we provide migration posts on how to migrate from style components to Stitches, from emotion to Stitches, how to use Stitches with Next.js, how to use Stitches with Gatsby, and everything that people need to get started.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
If we add that, is there a build step involved, or is this plain only runtime only?
There's no build step at the moment. At the moment, it's all runtime. We do if you're using something like Next.js that supports server-side rendering, then we offer a way for you to server-side render your styles, so you don't get that initial cost. But we are working on having an optional build step, if you want, and which would allow you to then extract all of the Stitches styles into style sheets, which you can then inject in your HTML via Webpack or something like that.
That's cool. Another thing, you don't provide the prop interpolation, right?
No.
Yeah. So you're all doing it via the variants. Have you found any downsides with the variant approach?
No. If anything, it feels like it's a little bit more strict, and you could say that maybe it is. And I would kind of say that that's a good thing, because Stitches is really designed for providing a better API for people, for providing an API that people can kind of like know which variations of a component is available to them, especially when you're building design systems. And that allows you to kind of create a clean API, give that to your consumers, document it, and then there's no surprises. But we do offer the CSS prop, like I showed in my demo, which is if you want to pass some overrides, if you want to do something that's like based on a prop, you can do all of that via the CSS prop instead.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's like especially cool for building design systems in general, because like for example, if you're building button stitches, what stitches variant what provide it automatically also give like type-safe variants, so users don't have to guess the variants. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Looking forward to trying it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
anytime.
so I mean, we're a tiny bit ahead of schedule, but I mean, should we go to the next live coding section with Sascha, or?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's do that. Maybe we can still discuss more after that. So, yeah, sure. It's the first event, so still learning. But let me know once you have your screen ready, and I will.
We're all ready.
Perfect. So now we can go.
So I'm presenting Twin, so this is a different talk than the two before. So maybe a little bit like Pedro did. Twin is a Tailwind first CSS-in-JS solution. So we basically provide the Tailwind in runtime only. So there's no build step, no post CSS setup. And CSS-in-JS because we have additional helpers where you can use plain CSS if you need to. If you need to escape the Tailwind rules, you can provide your own CSS. For the specificity thing that Anurag brought up, and we have solved that, and I'm going to show you in the tour. So what I think most of the people out there are familiar with Tailwind, so I won't introduce it greatly. Basically, what Tailwind provides is utility classes like these, and there's a big CSS file, usually like 20 megabytes, or I don't know, large in development at least, and you need to purge, so you need to have the build step. And what I'm presenting here in the first part is what we call the Twin shim. The Twin shim, to enable it, is just this little import, and you get full Tailwind support for everything. So what this does internally is a mutation observer on the class attributes, and every time a class attribute changes, we pass the classes in there and generate the CSS and inject it into the page. So as you see, we have no CSS in this project, and this thing is still start. Yeah, what Tailwind what Twin usually does is good shown here in this little box on the right. So we have the TW helper that you have to call, but with the backticks, and this is just annoying for most people coming to Twin. This is useful for library authors, maybe authors I will show later, but for the most people, I think the shim is a good start, where you just use class name or class attribute and the starts. In this example, I've used the accordion component from Radix UI. So this is just a short, it's just a short showcase how you could use it. And this is exactly how Pedro told. So use the class name attribute, pass in the classes. They are passed through to the DOM, Twin picks them up, generates the styles, and you have styled accordion. So basically that's it. We have a little bit animation, so that's the cool stuff you get with Tailwind. All these great utility classes, group hover, stuff like that, that makes styling components easy. When the other ones have did the hard part with the accessibility and the state management. So what I want to do now is start with a fresh table. Here we go. Remove that. And what I want to do is style a button. The simple thing one can think of. Why? Because everybody knows it. And it allows us to show some things that Twin allows you to do instead of using Tailwind. So As you see, there's no styling. So Twin provides automatically the pre-flight, so the browser reset. So every style is removed from the browser, from the built-in style sheet is removed or resetted. And what we can do now is start styling. So I have prepared some class names here. So as you see, it gets long, right? So what I just said is do a background purple, we want white text, make it large, have a little padding, make it rounded, have a ring. So when you click on it, you get it. I can make this. And I make this one larger. It's large enough, right? And on focus, remove the outline and show the ring. That's basically it. What we see, this gets really long. So that's the downside of using Tailwind. You get a massive class attributes where all the styles are basically hidden in it. What we can do with Twin is providing plugins that are basically aliases to these classes. So we can do something like this. We have a setup method that is exported by Sheng, where you can do other stuff like hash generation, if you want to warn if a class is not found, stuff like this. And so basically now what we can do, we can use template literals here, so we can nicely group which styles we are using. So we have all our focus styles here down below. We can use grouping. This is a Twin feature, so we can use the brackets to group things together without repeating focus. And I'm naming this one BTN button, and I can use this now. So if we look here, so we are using BTN here, but we get all the classes from Tailwind. So just an alias for these Tailwind classes. That's a good start, but now let's see, we want to override stuff. So like we want to have rounded full. That works, cool. We want a larger padding, works too. But not to the top, just to the side. Oh, that's not working. And this is the specificity issue that Anurag already brought up, because Tailwind, and this is most people I heard don't know that, the order how styles are applied is defined by in which order they appear in the style sheet. So in Twin, we are trying to follow some simple, not so simple rules that to inject the styles. And in this example, we can look here, we have the PX5, if we look at it. So the P3 is the one from the button component, comes after the PX5. So it overrides the padding we have reset it. So the problem, how can we solve this? So what we want is, we want to use the base component and apply maybe additional styles like other colors in different padding, in different font size, should it be rounded full. What we can do is generate one CSS class that merges all these styles. So we can do this. So what I did is I imported apply. Apply is basically extracting all the CSS rules from these classes and creates one CSS class. So when we look at the button now, there's the button with all the properties from the underlying Tailwind classes. Yeah. So this is totally dynamic. We can add here new ones. And now the PX-5 has a higher priority. So we get the little...
Just a small note, we cannot see your inspector at the moment. So it's somehow lost.
Okay. Wait, then let me... share. Sorry for that.
No worries.
Let's do it this way.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, again, so the button is now down. Comes after the PXTW. So or before in the style sheet, but in the inspector, it's on the other in the other direction. So it gets applied. That's cool. So this is still just an alias. What we most of the time want to do is something like adding variants to the components, like having a button large. So we could put this all here, like text or XL, and add some extra spacing. It's possible, but you want to unify this in an API, so you want to have this restricted somehow. So what we want is a button XL. In Twin, you can do this. This can be a function, and at first you get some arguments. You get basically what happens is we get everything after the named component as parameter. So if you have here like button primary, we would get an array with XL and primary. So that's our parameters for the plugin basically. So for now, just this one. So we can use size here. And I think I have prepared something. Let us see. There. This. So we can just prepare some size map, so small, medium, large, XL, and now we can use that instead of the default. And there you go. Now you can use XL or small or medium or whatever you want. Right. So, and we can do this further, adding some more variants, like I called them variants. Now I know it's maybe not the best naming. It's just the colors that I use, basically. And we can, let's see. So we add some, I just copied this. It's easier if I copy it. So basically what we're now doing is, so we have some variants. So primary is a little purple. We have some neutral. We have some danger button. We're adding, so we are just adding one color in the variants, the purple 600 or black or red 600, and then using opacity to have different. So for the hover, it gets a little bit darker. Basically, we are increasing the opacity, so from 80 to 90, and on focus, we go to the full 100. So here you go. So let's use the danger. There you go, and large. So basically, that's how you would write this. And we can do some more. We can, for now, we have, if you hover it, it appears immediately with Tailwind. It's quite easy to add transitions to this stuff. So just adding transition for, let's say, a second to show the effect. And on motion view, so if somebody don't want to see a lot of flickering, we can disable transitions totally. And so it's very slowly coming. So let's keep it clear. Okay, so that's basically how you would write components with Twin. These are global components, right? So I don't know, how much time do we have? I have 2 more.
Yeah, we have a lot of time. So take your.
So, another cool thing about Twin is the dark mode. Usually in Tailwind you have to enable it explicitly. In Twin it's always there. So let's add the dark classes. Sorry. copied with one thing. What did I do there? Ah, I know. I know. I just, my fingers are too thick, so I just have to copy. So now we have the dark mode. This is now, I have I'm using the dark mode so that we can show that it's working. So using the light scheme, using the dark scheme. Yeah. And this works as well for all the variants. So let's add the dark mode. Okay. So what we're doing is we're adding something. If it's dark, use these colors. This is especially interesting for the neutral one. So let's see how that one would look like. So in dark mode, it's white. In the light mode, it's dark. Yeah, and this is something I really like about Tailwind. So it's easy to add the dark mode. So there's just one thing we should add as well, because the outline now is always white. You see there's a little offset from the outline, and in dark mode, it looks a little bit odd. So let's add it to the ring. In dark mode, so we have the ring. In dark mode, use the black outline. So you see there's a little black line now, and yeah. I'm not a designer, but some guys can do something with this, I think. So one last thing I want to show is animations. So Twin has a little animation helper because I think animations are a great thing, and every web UI should have something like that. So let's add animations. What I did here is just, we have a Twin CSS module that has a lot of additional CSS helper. It's not imported by Twin, so because not everybody needs it. So it's an explicit import. And this helper allows you to define an animation that you can later use. In this case, we want an animation for 1 second eased in. And then you just provide your standard CSS for the animation, the keyframes, basically. You can use a template literal syntax, but object syntax works as well. And let's use it. So I say on focus, bounds. So that's it. So there's no, so everything is handled internally by Twin. So it only get added once and only when you need it. Okay, now I'm sharing my whole. So this next one is easy. So yeah, that's basically plugins in Twin. You have one global registry for these things. So this button will now be available for your whole application that Twin is using. So call this once and everything is available. As the downside, this is a global registry. So it's not really a component model behind it, if you want to be honest. So what you can do is, and I prepared this one. Button is the same button. It's the same button. I don't know why the preview is not working. There's somewhere to restart the syntax, right? Let's copy it to the working. This is basically exactly the same code as in the plugin, but as a component. So we export a function component, and what we do now here is we're using apply to compose our styles within that component. So it's the same code, and this is now using the magic TW. So we're passing we're using TW to generate the class name for the things we pass to it. So for this thing, apply doesn't give us a class name. It just knows how to create this class name later. So it remembers what styles it should generate. And what we can do now is we pass in our base styles, and we can get some overrides. Let's use this one. I know what it is. Just remove the points for now. Sorry for that. We don't need this. Just removing the setup code. We don't need that anymore. But we need to ship. There you go. So now this is the button. So you see, if we remove the global plugin, now we are using the function components. So inline styles, if you want to, you can define these in your components and create a class name using TW. Yeah. The cool thing about this is, because we are using apply, the same is it's one class that gets applied. It's an auto-generated name. And now we can again provide overrides here. I don't know what I did here. Did I use the class name? No, I used the TW. So in this case, we can use TW to have a rounded full. Rounded full. There you go. Or this is something I didn't show in the other one, but we can use another background, like green. So this is, I think, debatable. Most of the time, you want the components provide a defined API that you can use with defined options, but it's possible to, because sometimes it happens that you want to have a little bit more margin, a little bit larger, and with this way you can do that. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, that's sort of like the SX prop in Team UI, but for Tailwind.
Yeah.
And I think this composition model you showed, it's quite cool. So we can push the logic to these components. And I think if I understood right, this approach, it combines with Renderless and Radix, which is sort of interesting connection here.
Yeah, I think the great thing is that there was a tweet where you have the front end of the front end and the back end of the front end, and I think that's a cool thing, because the whole area stuff, that's tough work, and the other thing is the styling, and I think these are separate issues, most of the time solved by different people, and if you can separate those two in the coding process, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a really cool, and I have a couple of questions. So about this compound variants in Tailwind, do we have something like that what we have in Stitches? Maybe we can eventually, because we have time, we can show how it works in Stitches after a while. But
in Twin, we are not yet there. We have a styled PR that will basically have a similar API than Stitches. So it should have the API of style components, but I'm convinced that the API of Stitches is better. So we'll be going that way. And yeah, and then you can use Tailwind classes. The idea, I can show it here. It will not work, but you could do something like Twin.
Yeah, let me show you a screen. Yeah.
You could do. The idea is that you can do something like Twin button, and now just write the classes we had here, like this, and integrated stuff. Or if I don't know if you have the accordion or something, yeah, this would what was the menu, something like this with the shadow. So this is the idea, and we will provide a style API for that, so where you can write CSS, color, whatever, green, I don't know if this is a color, and provide an apply method where you can now put in, okay, but I want to use the shadow utility or the scale x10 utility. So you can use the Tailwind classes together with plain CSS classes, and they are all going to be merged in one class object, actually a CSS class.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I have one question for Pedro. So there's some change in the API. Maybe you can explain better, but it's they have some plans for changing this CSS function.
No, it does. In the new one, it would. The CSS function will still accept other instances of Stitches components, so you can compose. At the moment, for where we are now in beta Canary 12, you can only compose by one. You can only call it once. But you will be able to compose it as many as you need. While I'm talking, can I get back on the twin stuff? Because that was a cool demo. I really enjoyed that. Personally, I think Tailwind offers a really nice base styling, a really nice scale for fonts and space, beautiful color system. One thing that usually keeps me from wanting to use it is that it relies on a build step. It's built with post CSS. And for me, I know that for a lot of people, that's not really a problem. For me, it's a little bit of a blocker. It's like, absolutely, I just want to get something up and running quickly. Right. I just want to go on Code Sandbox and do a little demo, and I can't just do that, right? And I think Twin solves that really nicely for me. It still gives me all the sort of great work that Adam and Steven have done.
Yeah.
But also it gives me a better experience, a better onboarding experience to use that. So I like that you've done that. I like the sort of like variant idea that you guys designed. You and Luke, right?
Yeah, Luke.
Yeah. I've seen a few tweets from him actually. I like how you guys solved the specificity issues. I'm well aware of the type of specificity issues you can have when you're working with Atomic CSS, because the initial version of Stitches was built with Atomic CSS, and we had every single issue you can think of.
Yeah.
Which is now, that's why one of the reasons we changed to a more traditional sort of object-oriented CSS.
Yeah, like we are also facing the specificity issue with our component library. So we tried a lot of stuff. There are a few libraries like Tailwind override. So it will do is arrange the CSS on the runtime. But the downside is that it creates like a huge object which maps all the specificity, like I don't know how they did it, but it like 130 KB of extra JSON file to in our bundle size to just get the specificity issue resolved. So that was like I was like, no, this is not gonna work. So lastly, what we did is we like in our library CSS, we like prefixed our Tailwind classes with lib. So in our library classes, we use lib dot fonts bg red 100, and on the and use variant order to make the specificity lower in our library style, so that user can have the greater specificity. So I think what Twin did is I think solves all the issues with the specificity. Yeah.
I can expand a little bit on this. This specificity thing for the utility styles is quite tricky. We've been
I'm sharing your screen if you want to show something.
Ah, cool. I just prepared something for later. Sorry. So what we basically did is for the styles. So just waiting here for it to come back. So what we did is, if you look carefully, the more declarations of a CSS class there are, the later it comes in the style sheet. So that's the whole idea. So with not the whole idea, but the basic idea. So we found when we analyzed the Tailwind CSS that you often have some base class like padding, and then some more specific class like margin top or padding top. And this has only one property. So we determined that every CSS class that only has one declaration is more specific than one with two declarations. And on that, we built a specificity, and we have other stuff in there as well, like the dark scheme always comes last. Responsive styles come then ordered in their min-width style. Then we have specificities for the focus hover case. So because they hover and focus have the same specificity, if you want consistent styling, they should always be in the same order. So like whatever you want, hover first, then focus, or the other way. And so we ensure that all your variants are always in the same order. This goes as well for grouping and everything. So this is it's a technical thing, but I really enjoyed it. Basically, I can elaborate later.
Yeah, there's that nice comment from YouTube about this variant issue. But it sounds like you solved it in Twin.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
I hope so. And one thing I'd like to show, if it's because in development it's nice to have these nice classes names, but for production you maybe want to use the hashing. So you get class names like these always. So there's no background border or something. So it's just the hash class name. Just a little one, reduces a little bit the file size, but not much after gzip or broadly. It may help sometimes. And as another one for development, we provide warnings if you use the wrong class. Like it's not beautiful layout here, but if I use a class that is not, or color maybe for text, green 1000. There's no such thing as text green 1000, so you get an error in the console. I don't know, you see it down here?
Yeah, error unknown theme value, yeah.
So, and we want to enhance these errors so you get better visibility in the browser, but we can analyze these and have a great developer experience if you're using the wrong class name or a theme value is not defined, something like this. We're working on that.
So there is actually these days, because people use TypeScript a lot, I did some experiment related to this. I was using Tailwind, and then I found out that you can, I think with the current TypeScript, you can more or less type this. I mean, of course, the type is going to be crazy, but you can do it with TypeScript.
Yeah, there is a project for Tailwind, I think, already doing this. I forgot its name. What I find difficult there is that it's increasing the compiler. So it's a lot of burden for TypeScript to do this, especially if you have several of those. So this is a magnitude of possible variations there. This kills the TypeScript compiler. So I think what we most of the time want is have a TypeScript plugin maybe that can analyze these classes and give you TypeScript diagnostic by not being in the type system within, but via the compiler you get diagnostic here, like ESLint, but via TypeScript for the Tailwind classes. Then an auto completion or IntelliSense in the editor would be enough, I think.
Yeah, my current feeling is that a good solution is to push the problem to component props or component interfaces.
Yeah.
So that then sort of minimize the problem for the consumer.
Yeah. But I think for prototyping, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Stuff like this.
Cool. Does anyone have any bonus demos or something to discuss? Or I mean, we're totally flexible because we have so much time.
Good stuff.
Well, maybe I can something.
Yeah, sure.
Like we can discuss on like how Tailwind, what problems we are facing with the Tailwind and stuff. Let me just share my screen.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yep. So here it is. So how we are styling is we have a default theme here, and we are using objects for like Tailwind objects for each component. And as I said, like we are prefixing this all the Tailwind classes with lib in our internal styles, and we are using, where is the preset here? We are using like variant order. Here is it. We are using variant order to make the specificity larger and lower, control the specificity, and that's the issue with core issue with atomic CSS is that you will have issues like this where the component will have specificity issue. So how here I have a Next.js project setup. So what we are doing with our theming system is that users can directly use Tailwind config file to extend the variants. Here you can see we have variants extends. We have default variants of ghost, outline, primary, secondary, and let's say you need a new one, red, BG, red. You add the variant here, and it will get extended here. So as you can see, we have red variant here. We will get that. So for the theming system, this is why we are choosing to we decided to go with this kind of object style, so that users can extend it on their part and add more variants if they want, instead of hacking away with CSS and getting the styles. So they can control even the sizes, with colors, etc. stuff. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, well, yeah. So if you have any thoughts, you can say.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So this is the part where we faced the specificity issue. Let me just show you a tweet.
You could try Twin to solve this.
Yeah. What we are doing is not using CSS-in-JS. Probably that's a problem. So yeah. So this is the thread we are I wrote about Tailwind specificity issue, and here's the Tailwind override package which solves this. But problem with that is that this will generate this whole, where is that? Let me check. Yeah, Tailwind CSS properties. Look at this whole. It can't even load 98 KB of Tailwind CSS bindings to fix the specificity. So this is not ideal. You don't want this in your library.
And before we had apply in Twin, we have had an override variant. So you could write override colon brace and then your styles, and they would get increased specificity, right? Because we would do the two classes tags or the same class, so dot button, and that would increase the specificity, great word, for these rules. And maybe you could do something like this to introduce a override variant, and all the class names that you pass into your component library would use the override variant to generate these classes.
Yeah, like we don't have like custom class names in the like in the end it will get like placed in the native HTML. So we don't have like button like custom CSS properties. We just have tailwind classes.
Yeah, this was just an example, but you could what we have is like you could do you could provide in for like the base where you have in the last background gray 100, and the users could have override colon bg red 500, and now through the override variant it would have a higher specificity than your default.
Yeah, like we actually tried that. Basically what we did is reverse of what you just said. Yeah, instead of doing instead of users writing the lib or override, it's
you're doing lib,
override. Yeah. So we are doing this in here so that users don't have to remember that, oh man, I forgot lib.
Yeah, but you could do it in your library, don't you?
We can do that. Yep. That's
Cool.
the whole gist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Cool.
Yep.
So maybe we can like go to takeaways. Like, what did we learn today? I mean, for me, it was a lot of new stuff, new material. And so, what was the thing you picked up or want to try or so? Was there something specific that you noticed?
Personally, I think now the with Twins, I think I might actually finally give Tailwind a go rather than just knowing how it works, like from a theory perspective. Yeah, I think that's one of the things on my list. Probably Renderlesskit, I think is very nice. I really liked the demo with the calendar, and I really liked the little input that you could switch between the different fragments of the date. I thought that's nice. Calendar is always a hard thing to build. It's on our list on Radix as well, and you have teams like Airbnb that build a calendar, right? It's probably like the most popular one, and you would imagine that if anyone was going to build the best calendar in the world, it would be someone like Airbnb, since that's like the most important piece of UI for them. And you can see if you look through the GitHub history of that project, it's been in the making for years, and they're still pushing changes to it. So it's not an easy thing to build. Of course, not everybody needs a calendar like Airbnb. So so I'm curious also about how did you build your calendar? Like, is it using a different calendar library under the hood? Because you use React, but mainly for the composite grid and things like that, right?
Yeah, let me show you that.
Yeah, let me show you the screen. So
yeah, I have this. Yes, here the screen.
Here we go.
Yep. So basically, mostly we used we modified the source code of React Spectrum. Actually, React Spectrum is basically I think you guys have heard about that React Spectrum. So here's our library date picker component. Let's start with the calendar. Yep. So we are using React system. It's on top of that. So some of the components are like very simple, but let's come with cell. So cell with grid cell, we are just providing normal like accessibility, mouse event handlers, all that stuff. And here's some of the utilities. Main the logic of the code is at the like the hook, the main hook. Yeah, data, like use calendar hook. If users want, they can like replace this hook on their part and use whatever they want. So here we have some basic logic to focus the cell, and we are using date function to like calculate all the stuff. And here it is, React Spectrum. We are using React Spectrum for that, and we also have a separate hook for the range calendar. And that's it. That's all. And for the date picker, we are here is it. Date picker, we are composing the calendar hook. We also have segment hook. Those are the hook for like controlling the segment. And here's the calendar hook. Like we are composing the hooks on top of it to create the final thing. And we are just returning the state and rendering and spreading the state in all the components. That's how we like build it.
Yeah, very nice. Good work.
Yep, thanks.
I would have a question at you both. So one of you used, so Anurag used the hook API extensively, right? So, but
Yeah.
your hooks is the base, and then you have components for simplify the usage, right? And Pedro, you don't have hooks, or at least not as exposed as. But you're going for components only,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Could you dive into why either of you have chosen to go the one path, that path, or that path?
Well, for us, it's an easy choice because we are building modules, which is a visual code editor. And for us, visualizing components is much more useful from a visual point of view, is much more meaningful than just arbitrary hooks, which is just an object with data.
Yeah.
That would be too difficult for people to visually build stuff with it.
Okay.
And hooks tend to be a little bit more low level in the sense that you can actually take that state and you can put it absolutely anywhere. It's in a way, like you could probably say it's a lot more flexible. But for us, we've built our components in such a way that it's flexible enough for people to do absolutely anything they need to do with them. So we didn't need to go down that extra level. And since we need to integrate that with modules, it was clear that we needed something that was more component driven.
Makes sense.
So for us, like because React it also provides a actually very nice API for the hooks, we decided to go with hooks. Our plan from the start was to create low level hooks, then build on top of that to like compose more high level components. For our design system, we don't actually expose hooks. We only expose components like Radix UI. So that's our decision, like that.
Okay. So so you're both going with maybe using hooks internally, but expose everything as components.
Right.
Good to know. If
Cool.
I can ask another question, are you planning to expose all your knowledge to other frameworks like Svelte or Vue or Vite or I don't know?
We actually currently have no plans on that.
Okay.
It will be a lot of work to do that.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're going to do. We are going to offer all of these primitives in Vue, Svelte, probably even native like vanilla JS, maybe web components.
Components,
yeah.
That would be great.
And at the end of the day, for us, it's our, like all of these products like Stitches and Radix, these are complementary products to modules, which is it's like the biggest product that we have. So for us, our product is to allow people to ultimately be able to design, prototype, and build production ready applications visually. And we don't really want to limit them to using React or Vue, but at the moment it's React only. But it's definitely in the roadmap that we will expand that to other frameworks.
Cool. Looking forward to them.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I had one question is, do you think it's possible to use Radix and Renderless in the same project? So do I get into trouble if I get calendar component from one side and the rest from the other side?
No, it should be fine.
No, it should be fine, but you should care about your bundle size, right? You don't want two libraries at once. Although you can we have tree stacking and all, but if you are talking about compatibility of our hooks and Radix UI components, I don't think that would be possible.
All right. So does anyone have anything on mind, or should I wrap up I have one question because I have to plan the next session. So what will be a good topic? What should I discuss in the next episode?
That's hard.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe accessibility or something like a software topic.
I think that's a topic definitely not talked enough about.
Yeah, you can get Diego for accessibility.
Yeah, definitely. He's good.
Yeah,
He's
I want to talk
amazing.
about accessibility as well. We can put
Also,
you in touch with
also
the people
Devon.
building Radix. We've got Benoit and Jenna, who are the core Radix team.
Yeah.
And they spend a lot of time building these components, testing them, and thinking about the accessibility guidelines. So, can put you in touch with them.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I guess that's the topic for the next one. So we do accessibility for the next session.
You can also get Devon from React Spectrum. He's like done amazing stuff on accessibility.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I already have 2 names, so I have to find that third one. But so I think I will show some slides and then we close the session. I think it was apart from me forgetting to open the stream, it was a great session, and it's always the thing. You do a new thing and then you forget to press a button. But thanks for our sponsors: Go4, Futurist, Smartplay, Digia, Elisa, Alma, Columbia Road, Quantic, Vincit, Cybercom Group, Wonder, and Netum for enabling the event. And of course, we'll get more events. And if you have topics in mind, you can go to our website, React Finland FI, and send us your ideas. Next event, I wrote April, but I mean, I like the format, so maybe we do something in March. So let's see. And Kiitos. And if you want to discuss with the community, just come to our Slack. You can find the join link at the website. But again, thanks a lot. And yeah, I mean that's it. How do I end the session? So I guess
nice. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Cheers for your time.
Thanks for having us.
It was a lot of fun.
We'll see you.
Cool. Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
That was nice. Bye.